in Chicago, it's only going to get more chaotic after this.
Mayor Brandon Johnson's administration has reportedly begun filing lawsuits over what it describes as rogue buses transporting migrants. The Tribune reports that 55 lawsuits have been filed since new rules were implemented last month regulating when and where buses can arrive. The mayor's office is now seeking the ability to impound buses that don't follow those rules and fine owners up to $3,000. That ordinance will be discussed at next week's city council meeting.
So now we're going to be finding rogue buses. Now, guys, I wanted to give this particular video a couple of days to build up because once again, we're finding out more and more and more about the situation in Brighton Park with this soil where they want to put the new facility at. And of course, there's a whole another brand new facility that they are trying to build. However, it looks like the situation is going to become more and more chaotic because obviously something else has now entered into the equation. The thing that has entered into the equation is now the pro-migrant crowd, and they are upset with the city itself and the governor of Illinois for halting production or halting the building on a couple other buildings. I know that kind of sounds very weird, but of course you've got the situation in Brighton Park with the soil, and of course I'll be bringing you guys up to speed here in a second. But before we get to that, let me go ahead and play this first clip to kind of give you guys an indication of exactly where it is that the people of Chicago, or at least a good portion of them, stand on this issue.
As a proposed migrant tent camp comes down in Brighton Park, Little Village residents are trying to keep one from going up in their neighborhood. They gathered today to voice their concerns outside a shuttered CVS store at 2700 South Pulaski, a proposed site for migrants. Residents who spoke say they're worried about their safety and would rather their tax dollars be spent on residents in need.
People have been waiting for years, let's say, for example, for to get citizenship, and they don't get anything. They've been here 40, 50 years. They can't get no amnesty. But then these people come, they get everything. They're getting their rent paid, they're getting money, they're getting phones, they're getting etc. What about the homeless people? What about the veterans? The veterans, exactly.
They continue to call for more transparency from the mayor's office.
Here, of course, is the crowd that is saying no new migrants. As a matter of fact, the guy that was just speaking, it's really funny, too, because one of my subscribers placed this in the comment section the other day. Of course, I'm not showing you the comment, but I'm actually just repeating back to you what she put in there. She basically said when illegals are saying there is too much illegal immigration, there is, in fact, a problem. This is one of the main gripes that people have with illegal immigration. It is not so much the fact that people are here, it's the fact that people get benefits that others, of course, are not getting. Now, guys, I have said on several occasions that I do not believe in handouts, okay? Handouts are not supposed to be handouts. That they're meaning that it's supposed to be a hand up, meaning it's supposed to help you out. But, of course, we've covered this topic before on how it is that these Venezuelans are getting roughly $7,000 and all these additional benefits for crossing the border. And, of course, a lot of these migrants are beginning to get upset with the situation, which, of course, I have no idea why they're complaining about it. They were warned ahead of time that if they just got here beyond a certain date, well, maybe they weren't exactly warned, but they probably should have known better that you don't come here late in the year, especially given the fact that winter is coming and being in cities like, say, Chicago and New York, possibly Denver, Colorado, Boston, Massachusetts, or we haven't really heard about Minneapolis, Minnesota. But then again, though, I think there may be other reasons for that. It probably was not a good idea, especially given that the cutoff date for benefits was on July the 21st of this year. Also, something else too with that guy said at the very end about veterans. I mean, vets should always be before illegals. I'm not saying this as a vet myself. I'm saying this as somebody who has seen a lot of guys come back home over the preceding years, and they've not been able to get jobs or even get certain benefits. I mean, hell, there are guys that I serve with to this day that did more in combat who cannot receive the VA benefits that others may have, or those who did less in combat or did not even see action actually got. I could definitely make a video on that particular topic, but I'm probably going to wait till sometime next year to do so when we start going to more video essay type format. But still, at the same time, the people who are there are obviously angry that the migrants are there. And quite frankly, it's not so much they don't like the migrants. It's mostly due to the fact that they just, quite frankly, can't afford it. And not to mention the fact that you've got all these people collecting benefits that others cannot. But then you get the migrants or you get the people who actually want the migrants here. But here's the thing. They're not happy about this situation either. And as I said before, it's about to get chaotic.
For a human being to live on the land that are polluted. The Johnson administration hits another roadblock in its controversial project to build a migrant encampment on the southwest side.
In this latest twist, the governor's office has ordered a stop on construction due to what was discovered beneath the surface. Casey Cronus is in Brighton Park with more on this developing story. Casey.
Neighbors have been sounding the alarm since day one, calling the site unsafe. Now, the results of a long-awaited environmental study are out, and the state's latest move shows they are cause for concern. For the first time in weeks, a massive lot at 38th in California has fallen silent. Construction crews were bringing a winterized tent city to life, but the discoveries outlined in a nearly 800-page report have put a pause on their progress. Consultants found arsenic, lead, and mercury, among other chemical compounds, in the soil.
We hope that the result will kill this project because we think it's unfair to put migrants on a site that has an industrial history.
Monday morning, the city reported that soil with mercury was removed and the site is still safe for temporary residential use. But Governor Pritzker said not so fast, ordering a review by the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency.
If they say they finished the remedy, they should retest the soil again to confirm the land is safe.
Other compounds discovered in the 9.5-acre site include PCB chemicals, which were banned in the late 70s because they can harm human and environmental health. At an unrelated event Monday morning, Mayor Johnson ignored questions about the results.
To me, it's negligent and no regard for life.
Because of the state's decision, a judge found it unnecessary to grant residents who have sued with a temporary restraining order. But during a court hearing, that judge encouraged the city to be more transparent with community members.
What you guys just saw are the people who are upset about the fact that the Brighton Park facility is being placed on an area that is, let's just say that the soil is not good. The pH levels are bad. Of course, there's mercury around there. And of course, I've said this on several occasions in several videos. I know I say several occasions a lot, but I got to kind of repeat myself that obviously if something does in fact happen, if people get sick, lawsuits are probably going to be coming. I've also mentioned the fact, once again, that winter is here and the weather is only going to get colder. I think it was like 38 degrees, and this video actually came out 3 days ago. The thing is this right here. It's 38 degrees, and of course, today's date is December the 12th. The time I'm recording this video will come out December the 13th. They'll also be coming out with one more video. Of course, it's going to be on about that movie on Netflix that apparently Obama made. And of course, all the theories that people are throwing out there, but that video will come out later on tomorrow afternoon, probably the second video of the day. The situation that you're looking at here is you've got a crowd of people who are obviously anti the immigrant, meaning they're anti the immigrants being here and wasting the city's taxpayer dollars on facilities for people who quite frankly should not be here, people who should be back across the border applying for citizenship the legal way. The thing is this here though, the people who are saying no to the immigration, they are seeing their lives get completely upended. They are also seeing certain programs not getting funded. And of course, the pro-migrant crowd, they are now concerned about the situation in Brighton Park and the other situations that are going on in town, especially with some of the areas that they plan on building these facilities on. Meaning you could have some serious problems, as you guys will see here.
Long vacant Little Village CVS, crews are scrambling to stand up yet another shelter for newly arrived migrant children and families. More than 13,700 migrants are living in ones just like it across the city. This one is a collaboration.
The state of Illinois will be funding this site. The city of Chicago will be operating, however, and it will be a part of the city of Chicago system.
The city says as many as 230 migrants will soon sleep and live inside the brick and mortar portion of this facility, but they'll add spaces outside for things like recreation, legal services, and medical aid. The new large space home is a temporary stopgap for migrants that sits squarely in the heart of a community of people with stories similar to their own.
I think I started a classroom with 2 students that were new arrivals. Now we've ballooned into 25, about 25.
Toda esa gente ha fracasado.
Still, people who live near the future shelter at 26th and Pulaski have their complaints.
We should have been known before this happened. 26th Street looks terrible. It's the new Skid Road.
The shelter is the city's earliest hope for housing more than 500 migrants and counting who are still arriving at police stations. The skeleton of the Brighton Park base camp has disappeared after the state declared the site too potentially toxic for people to live on. Another possible mass tent camp at 115th and Halsted is still untouched and may stay that way.
At this moment, we don't have a firm commitment to open a base camp. It's still an option on the table, and we will continue to explore it.
All of it is emblematic of a continuing humanitarian crisis that's crashing into the city's coldest months without a
Let's go through some of these complaints. First of all, you're putting new facilities up in new areas of places where we can just say that people did not expect them to come, which of course we'll be going through that in the next clip because it was a suburban area in Illinois that has also got migrants coming their way as well that, of course, they did not ask for. You see, if you start dumping things on people, of course, those who did not get a heads up on the situation, they will begin to get angry. As I said before, you've got one crowd of people who's upset that migrants are here. We've discussed this in previous videos, as well as the black population who is definitely not happy with this because they're seeing jobs and they're seeing benefits being potentially taken away from them. Basically, what they did was they kicked a lot of these citizens off to the side in favor of the new arrivals who, quite frankly, should not be here. I understand that I always like to say that, you know, you get what it is that you vote for, but still at the same time, a lot of these people probably went into this entire thing completely blind, which of course is a problem with our NPC culture, non-player character, or useful idiot culture, people who quite frankly don't do any research and look up and see exactly what's going on. If you hear something in the background, that is probably what's going on top of my place. I apologize for that now, but still, the thing is this right here. You've also got another crowd of people who is very, very pro-migrant, and they want the migrants there, but of course they're seeing the conditions that the migrants are being in, and they're beginning to get a little bit upset with the city, not to mention the fact they're also getting upset with the fact that some of these facilities are being built in some pretty nasty, pretty rough places. All kinds of things could happen. Disease, of course, long-term disease, chronic illness. I know as they are all kind of in the same vein, but still at the same time, you're looking at potentially lawsuits. You're also looking at the situation involving the weather. People could in fact die. EMS, firefighter, police officers, of course, they're going to be completely strapped this holiday season. And this is also the time of the year where shoplifting occurs. And even though the city of Chicago has laxed itself on a lot of potential crimes, some very, very big crimes could in fact slip through the cracks, and it would actually be quite humiliating. Say murders, shootings, things of that nature. Why did this matter not get taken care of? Well, we had the migrants. We've been pinned down with that. Still at the same time, though, it's a mess. It's pretty daggone chaotic, which of course brings us to the topic of these rogue buses. But what other problems could come about this? Well, you heard one guy talk about class. You got 2 brand new students come in. Next thing you know, you got 25 students come in. Next thing you know, you've got a whole bunch of students that don't speak English. Not trying to make fun of anyone, but of course, when you come to the United States, your language, of course, you should learn English. That right there is our natural language. By the way, I want to say this right quick before I go any further. I did a video on this a while back, especially when it involved illegal immigration in the military. And it's not like, say, somebody who's been here for 5 to 10 years, and of course they've learned to fall in love with American culture, and they're in the process of getting their citizenship. A lot of times when you pull in these guys straight from the border itself and you want to put them inside the military, a lot of times they don't know English or the land itself, nor they have any actual, any loyalty to the nation itself. It's an extremely dangerous practice. But the most dangerous practice that would be, the most dangerous thing you could do is put guys who don't have English as their first language on the front lines. Communication issues could come up. You got a guy who's speaking Spanish or possibly speaking Brazilian, which of course is really Portuguese. Somebody speaking Chinese, and of course everybody else in this unit, they are speaking English. And next thing you know, you can't communicate with somebody because the guy who knows English may not know the language itself. This right is the United States of America. English is the primary language. I'm sure you should actually learn that. But of course, you're also seeing the situations where migrants are being moved to other areas of the town that have not yet been explored, which is where we're going at with this one.
The past 3 weeks, Cicero police have been called after buses from Texas have tried to dump off migrants in remote locations like this metro station. Cicero is cracking down, and now so is Chicago, upping the ante even more. At the landing zone for new arrivals in the South Loop, they were preparing for 5 more buses from Texas today. Bus companies have been told they must arrive during certain hours and provide advance notice or face a $5,000 fine. That's prompted 2 recent buses, including one on Wednesday, to try and avoid the fines by dropping off around 40 migrants here at the metro station in Cicero.
They had the white blankets that they gave down in Texas, but they were shivering. As soon as I got there, there was no police presence yet, but New Life had already contacted Cicero Police Department to meet us out there.
When police arrived, they informed the driver he faced a potential fine of $30,000 under a new ordinance if he left the migrants here.
This was in order to, exact a penalty on people just dumping homeless people. It's wrong. So that new ordinance states that if you don't have a permit, you will be fined $750 per person that you bring into a community.
The driver decided to load the migrants back on the bus and took them to the Chicago landing zone under Cicero police escort.
May I have a motion to approve?
Today, a city council committee approved a new ordinance that would take the city's fines one big step further to force all bus companies into compliance so they drop migrants off at the landing zone where they can be welcomed with dignity, provided essential warm clothes, and taken to a shelter.
What we found is that every company has flagrantly, wantonly disregarded those rules and regulations and even the fines associated with them. The ordinance we're considering today would allow those buses, if they're not in compliance, to be impounded by the city.
Next week, the full city council is expected to take up and approve the bus impounding measure, hoping that it sends a message to bus companies to work with the city to best care for the new arrivals.
There's one suburban area, one suburban town outside of Chicago that pretty much voted no on the migrants. This right here is a situation where these people are claiming that they did not get the heads up on the situation, and of course their daily lives are being upended again. That's the thing about bringing over a bunch of migrants. You see, you don't have the facilities to take care of these people. Maybe you should have built these facilities earlier, but then again, like I said before, these people want to be woke. They want to be sanctuary cities. They want to be sanctuary places. And of course, they say, go ahead and come on in. But they don't think about the people that they actually serve. They don't think about the people who are already in the community. It's one of the reasons why it is that my old view on immigration, which was a little bit more lenient, has changed, and I've become a little bit more conservative, a little bit more strict on the issue. For example, we go back to the Muslim ban that Donald Trump pitched back in 2015, 2016 timeframe. I understood why he wanted to do it. We had a couple of shootings, and of course, to go on top of this, we had also YouTube. I'm just simply mentioning history. I know you guys are going to want to put the yellow dollar sign on this video, but please hear me out on this, which is another one of the reasons why you guys got to hit the like button, so that way the video will travel through the algorithm. So the thing is this right here. At that time, I personally wished he had worded it better and said people from war-torn countries. The prevailing theory was that people were being brought in from Syria, being brought in from Iraq, they were being brought in from areas where ISIS had just been, and of course, to go on top of this, places that were war-torn. Last thing you want to do is bring in refugees without actually vetting these people. We've got, God knows, I don't know how many that have crossed this border that have not been vetted, that quite frankly have just been let in. And the more and more you look at the videos, the more and more you see it's not just the typical Hispanics from South America or Central America or Mexico. You're bringing in people from China. You're bringing in people from the Middle East. You're bringing in people from Haiti. You're bringing in people from pretty much everywhere. And, of course, you're not vetting these people, which, of course, is going to create an additional crisis a little bit later on, which, of course, we'll talk about a little bit more in video number 2 when I talk about the video of the movie Leave the World Behind, because everybody's talking about how that movie is woke. But I have a take that is going to be very polarizing, so make sure you guys stick around for that. But still, we'll talk about that more tomorrow. The thing is this right here. You're creating chaos, and now you want to suddenly find these quote-unquote rogue drivers. I don't think these drivers are rogue. I think these drivers are people who are simply doing what the federal government is telling them what to do. And I think that Brandon Johnson coming out and saying, well, I'm going to find these people as a way to try to pacify some of the anger that's going on in the city and the nearby suburbs. Okay, so you guys heard that. Now, before we talk about this very weak attempt by Brandon Johnson, the Johnson administration, to throw fines at people who, quite frankly, he's calling rogue drivers, let's take a look at Capitol Hill for a second.
Is the leading cause of death for Americans age 18 to 49 in this country. Fentanyl poisoning, because it's allowed over the border. We have human trafficking and all the other terrible things. In the last 3 months, October, November, December alone, We've had more illegal crossings at the border than in any entire year during the Obama administration. The American people see this, they feel it acutely, they see all the terrible societal ills that come from this, and it must be addressed. So I've made this very clear, again, from the very beginning, when I was handed the gavel. We needed clarity on what we're doing in Ukraine and how we'll have proper oversight of the spending of precious taxpayer dollars of the American citizens, and we needed a transformative change at the border. Thus far, we've gotten neither. The Senate has been MIA on this. The House passed H.R. 2 6 months ago, more than 6 months ago. It's been sitting and collecting dust on Chuck Schumer's desk. I have told him personally, I've told the National Security Advisor, the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, that these are our conditions because these are the conditions of the American people. And we are resolute on that. It is not the House's issue right now. The issue is with the White House and the Senate. And I implore them to do their job because the time is urgent and we do want to do the right thing here. With that,
Speaker Mike Johnson basically telling the Biden administration, we will give you no money for Ukraine until you secure the border. You see, right now, the current administration has got to think about, do they appease the wokes or do they actually protect their interests elsewhere? Now, me personally, and you guys have heard me tell this on multiple occasions, that I don't really have a side in the whole Ukraine-Russia conflict. I just don't. It just feels to me like two turds fighting to be king turd on top of Turd Mountain. That's just how the hell it feels to me. Quite frankly, I don't want to spend any money on that ordeal. I am in favor of helping Israel out if Israel needs us. But now we've got this other situation going on between Venezuela and Guyana. We'll probably do a special video on that once we get more information. Of course, you've got the situation involving Taiwan and China wanting to invade. Not to mention the fact that you've got elections going on in Taiwan next year. It's going to be very interesting what happens in that situation because I think that right there could be the situation that kicks that entire thing off. We don't have the money to support this anymore. We should have had a wall built up a long time ago, and of course somebody's going to come in here and blame the previous administration for not getting it done. My feeling is that it could have been done, but also at the same time, I think that when you have Republicans in Congress who are not willing to work with you and trying to obstruct your administration, like what Paul Ryan and many people in the Senate did, I think that right there made issues a lot worse. It's bad enough when you take over, you try to change things, and all of a sudden you got a bunch of people in your own party that claim to be your friends, then turn out to not be your friends. They obviously stop you from doing some form of good. But then again, though, I'm pretty sure I'll get some pushback in the comment section. But the fact of the matter is, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen this year, is that this situation involving the migrants is going to continue. However, Speaker Johnson is correct to demand money for the border wall and border security before he even thinks about sending one dime to Ukraine. It's not going to do a bit of good, or maybe it's his attempt to try to recoup the money that's lost. Maybe it's his attempt to try to recoup the money that the city of Chicago or the taxpayers of Chicago were charged to put the migrants up in very nice hotels. Maybe that's what it is. Either way, though, it's probably going to anger people because it's not enough. You see, the thing about punishment is this here. And we had this entire conversation earlier. We saw this entire thing with apparently now Kid Rock and Dana White are now all ready to forgive Bud Light. Of course, you guys may remember the boycott. I'm just kind of using this to kind of relate to things. You see, in that case there, these people were talking about straight up spanking somebody, like in the case of Bud Light. Of course, they still didn't apologize, but still, they're saying we don't want to punish them for the rest of our days. And of course, there may even be a positive come out of this. This right here is a little bit different. This right here is not some brand. This right here is not some beer or some type of food or anything like that or some company. These right here are actual honest-to-God people that are being brought in that will live and breathe in the same spaces. And while it is that I'm not against anybody who has came over, I'm against the fact that they came over illegally, and a lot of these people are as well. This right here kind of seems unforgivable given the fact that the very weak mayor is not saying no to any more migrants coming into their city. What he's in fact doing is he's saying, oh, I will charge these rogue bus drivers who probably still work for the federal government, by the way, or they may be contracted by the federal government. And of course, these fines are not going to add to a hill of beans because, quite frankly, he himself probably does not know where these people come from, and he's just using this as an excuse to pacify the masses. With that right there being said, guys, as I said before, this entire situation is going to get chaotic, and it's going to continue to get chaotic. Come next summer, when the weather begins to heat up after a very long winter, after a very cold winter, after a lot of the fallout has occurred, which I'm pretty sure there's going to be more to come, it would not surprise me if the pro-immigrant crowd and the anti-immigrant crowd don't start protesting and getting into street fights in the streets of Chicago. I don't know how Michigan Avenue is going to look next year, but I think that it's going to get pretty daggone chaotic. And I do, in fact, expect some type of, well, I'll let you guys kind of come to your own conclusion before I actually say the word. And no, it's not CW, it's actually RW. I'll let you guys kind of fill that out on your own. With that right there being said, guys, this will be the first of 2 videos that will be coming out tomorrow. Make sure you guys stick around for both of them. Please hit the like button so that way the video will travel through the algorithm. Please also at the same time hit the subscribe button. Let's go ahead and make this channel much larger. Hit the notification bell. Also, please leave a comment in the comment section. I would love to get you guys' thoughts on this. And I'll see you guys later.